Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to have you in on a Friday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Busy day. It's the recruiting time of year. Nebraska getting a big get a second time. Mickey Joseph officially in at Nebraska as the wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator, and associate head coach, a man that got Mickey the first time on the recruiting trail, Jack Pierce, great assistant and elite recruiter at Nebraska and part of the athletic department for so many years, is going to kick us off today to talk about Mickey. Jack, thank you so much, bud, for giving us a few minutes today and starting the show. How's your Friday, man?
Yeah, I can hardly hear you, Schmitty.
Any better now?
No. You guys got to pay the bill to get that thing mic fixed.
Well, the hamster died. We've got one of those hamsters powering the station. I don't know what it is. So why don't we put you on? Why don't we put you on hold and we'll get it figured out? Hang on for me.
Thanks an awful lot.
Yep. So we'll do that. Talk with Jack. Check with him on his iPhone. All right, setting. And go there. So we'll hit reset and do this again. So we're supposed to talk with Jack Pierce. We hope that happens. It'd be really cool to do so. Loaded show for you. We'll dive in, and we'll spend a few minutes here on Mickey Joseph as he is back in Lincoln. Numbers to get in today on Hail Varsity: 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Jacob Padilla going to join us from Hail Varsity in a little bit. Talk some Husker football, some Nebraska volleyball. We'll get in some thoughts with hoops as well. And then the forecast coming up with Clauseborne. That is also happening in hour two. Bill Doleman. And then Michigan insider Gregg Hensen going to be with us. Elijah's juggling here. God love him. He's trying to make it happen. So what we do know is this. Mickey Joseph is in. Mickey's got a lot of experience coaching in 25 years. And you know what? Nebraska fans are so excited to have Mickey Joseph back. And you look at Coach Frost trying to round out this offensive side of the ball, this coaching staff. And you know what? Mickey's made such an impact at LSU, but really at different spots and stops throughout his career. And it was one of those situations where you were kind of wondering if it was going to happen, right? What's the situation like down at LSU? Is Brian Kelly going to retain him? Is Nebraska going to be able to get him? Do we have Jack back? Jack, you got us a little bit better, bud. Thanks for making this work.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry.
No worries. So, Jack, I want to get your reaction here to Mickey Joseph coming back to Lincoln. I know you and Mickey have been close for a long, long time. What do you think of him returning to Big Red Country? Well,
I'll tell you what, Mickey Joseph was one of the smartest and most athletic kids I ever recruited. He had a great mind for football. He played under Hank Tierney at Shaw, and then he came up here. Great parents. He had great parents. Had a couple of brothers that were pretty good athletes too.
Mm-hmm. Jack,
but he was fun to recruit. He was a good kid.
Let's go back to that moment. I mean, and Mickey was the National Gatorade Player of the Year. I mean, top option quarterback. You get him. You always did incredible work down in New Orleans and in Louisiana with your recruiting. And take me through that process years ago to get Mickey to Lincoln.
Well, we had the offensive and the defensive player of the year in Reggie Cooper and Mickey Joseph. LSU didn't like it very much, or Alabama didn't like it, but worked out that way.
So what was it like trying to get him?
Huh?
What was it like trying to get Mickey to commit to Lincoln?
Well, I tell you what, it was. We spent a lot of time with him. You know, his parents were very inquisitive, very intelligent people, and they wanted to know all about it. You know what I mean? And then on the final visit, I brought Tom down there, and I would have to say Tom sealed the deal.
Was it a situation? Was it it had to be a dogfight, didn't it, for the number one player in the country, the number one option quarterback? I mean, you in Oklahoma, was that who it came down to?
Well, that's what won it for us, Schmitty. I got to tell you, Tom and I were flying down to see Mick, and we had to fly through Chicago to get to New Orleans, and luckily, Tom picked up a newspaper in Chicago, and the headline on the sports page was that Notre Dame had signed the best drop back, 6'4", 200 and something pound quarterback from some school in Illinois there, and it just got a commitment from him. And Tom's explanation when we got down there, he brought the paper down there and showed it to him and said to him, "You're an option quarterback. What do you think they're going to do with you?"
Defensive back.
That sealed the deal.
Well, that worked. What was it? Was it pretty? Was it pretty fierce?
I couldn't read at that time, so Tom was lucky enough to read it to me.
So, when it comes to kind of generating that relationship, that rapport, Jack Pierce with us at Hail Varsity talking Mickey Joseph. Jack, what was the in? Obviously, the newspaper in Chicago didn't hurt, but how did Nebraska kind of grow with Mickey at the time when you got Oklahoma, you got Clemson, you got Notre Dame, and then you guys been winning a lot of ball games anyway as well in the Big Eight?
Well, we ran the kind of offense Tierney ran at Shaw, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I would show him film of our offense and just kind of related to him to pick himself out in his film. What guy are you? Mm-hmm. You know, and of course we would reflect on the quarterback because he could. He was just Schmitty. He was so smart at the game of football. He saw right away that he would have a great chance here.
Were you guys down there for Mickey's announcement?
Yeah.
What happened with that?
We couldn't go on a school ground, but he wanted to sign at school. And so I had a table set up at the park where there was an 8-foot fence, and Mickey signed we stayed on the park side, he stayed on the high school side with all the people around him.
Was this a snow fence you brought down?
No. I got Hank Tierney to find I said, we got to find something where we got a barrier, but we got to, and he had a friend of his that put the fence up for that day.
So technically you guys were on city property, not on school grounds?
Right, exactly. Well, it's just like Reggie. I had to sign Reggie in the street on the hood of a Cadillac.
Reggie Cooper. How did that go over with Reggie signing on a Cadillac?
That was on the Times-Picayune cover thing. It said Cooper signs. I think it said something like Cooper signs with Nebraska. Mm-hmm. What do you think he got from them? And it showed the picture was taken up through the Cadillac decal onto him signing.
So it's, hey, come to Nebraska, get a Cadillac, right?
Yeah.
Jack Pierce is with us, incredible recruiter for Nebraska, assistant coach, recruited Mickey Joseph to Lincoln, and Mickey is back in Lincoln. Have you been pretty proud, I would assume so, of Mickey's career? And he started out at Omaha North, his first job out in Nebraska as a high school coach. And, man, he's been a lot of spots. He's had a lot of roles. I mean, he's done it all.
Oklahoma, Northwest Oklahoma, Northeast Oklahoma, or something like that.
Yeah, he's done it all at a lot of spots, and he's been great for LSU.
He's been a great recruiter for them, and he's a great coach too. I've talked to a few people that have been around him. You know what I mean? When he was coaching, and Mickey's got a great feel for the game. His brother was head coach at Denver.
Yeah, Vance. Yeah, Vance, one of the best in the NFL defensively for sure. So what's your, I guess, projection here with Mickey, and what can he do in Lincoln?
Well, I tell you what. What do they got him as recruiting coordinator?
They've got him as passing game coordinator, associate head coach, and wide receivers coach.
Oh boy, they filled that bill real good. Yeah, Mickey knows the passing game. Mm-hmm. You know what? He's been involved with that though, that offensive side of the ball for a long time. Mm-hmm. So schemes, offensive passing schemes ought to come easy. I wonder how they're going to mesh that with the running game in terms of who's going to coach it. You know what I mean? I wonder if Scotty will coach it.
Well, that's interesting because you're still waiting on offensive line coach, running back coach, special teams. You've got Mickey, of course, with the passing game and wide receiver. I don't know this, but I wonder if they're going to go with, all right, Mickey, you handle the passing. Let's get an O-line coach in that'll also be run game coordinator, and they kind of tag team it.
That could be, yeah. No, Mickey's, when you sit down and listen to Mickey talk in the coaches' meetings, he demands attention, you know what I mean? Because he knows the schemes, he understands where it's coming from. And while he was here, he saw what kind of offensive line you need to do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We haven't seen that.
Now, Jack, another one of the reasons why Mickey was brought in was because of his recruiting prowess. So I want to ask you, being the guy that recruited him, are you the reason that he is such a good recruiter? Did you rub off on him, and does everything he know come from you?
Oh, God. I hope nobody rubs off. I hope nobody gets any part of me like that. There's too many bad parts. It's his personality. You know what I mean? He comes in there, from what I understand. I've never been with him in a room to recruit, but he comes in there and shows basically what Tom told him. You know, this is the kind of person you'll be in our scheme. You know what I mean? And I got to tell you guys that if we get a foothold in Louisiana again, I don't know that we won't rise. I've been skeptical about us making a quick rise to the top, but if he can pull a bunch of kids, and I think that's how we got Mickey too. Mm-hmm. We had a bunch of kids from South Louisiana.
You guys made it a priority to go down there, Jack. Just from your time down south, is that where? How did you get your foothold in New Orleans?
We were fresh. We hadn't been there before. I got to tell you, we played Oklahoma that year and got beat. Mm-hmm. But the free safety had an interception, and he had about a dozen tackles. And he was from New Orleans, Madonna High School. And what was his name? I just tried Savoy. I think it was Savoy or something like that. And I told Tom, we sat down and we wanted to add speed to the mixture at Nebraska. And I said, well, we don't ever go in there. We never go test it, you know. Mm-hmm. We got to go in and test it. So prior to going in there physically, I did a lot of high school coach calling and talked to them and tried to get their feel whether they would think that one of their kids might venture this far north.
Well,
And the first school I went to was the high school coach was Carol Delehuse. First guy I ever met at Louisiana head coach. And Bo Bridge. And, God, they spoke different. They ate different.
Just ask Brian Kelly.
yeah, exactly. That's been a nightmare.
That's what's going to happen with him. He's not going to be able to sit down and when they show film and the high school coach says, who the ball got? Or who the ball caught?
Yeah.
You know?
No, you got to know the lingo down there. Jack Pierce with us.
But God, that was my problem, too, though. And I just said to him, there's a group of coaches, head coach and myself, sitting watching film. And one of the coaches said, who the ball got? And for a couple minutes, I sat there thinking, what the hell is he talking about?
They got to talk Jack. Jack, you're a treasure, bud. Thanks for jumping on with us today, man.
You bet. Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
And tell everybody I am alive.
All right, we got Jack Pierce with us. Hello, listener. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it, Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's catch up with Jacob Padilla, HailVarsity.com and magazine, and of course, a couple of different podcasts you can check out. Jacob, want to get your thoughts on Mickey Joseph real quick, specifically kind of his pedigree and that Nebraska receivers room. We've seen glimpses of some wow from Betts and Manning and some of the younger wide receivers. What's your excitement level with Mickey in town?
Yeah, I think this is a home run move for Scott Frost. And really, you kind of wondered as this coaching search dragged on how likely that it was that Frost was going to be able to land kind of a wow name that the fans would be excited about. And I think Joseph is one such name. And not, obviously, the Nebraska connection helps there, but it's more his track record and where he comes from and some of the players that he was able to coach at LSU, some of the best wide receivers in the country the last handful of years. So I think there's a lot of reasons to be excited about this move, particularly with some of the talented younger players already on the team. And Xavier Betts, obviously, I think is front and center in that conversation. So we'll see kind of where the dust settles in terms of who's coming in, who's leaving. But I think Nebraska, this is a good first move for Frost as he looks to fill out this coaching staff.
Do you have a quick take on Adrian? Were you surprised at the decision?
No, I don't think so. It just kind of seemed like it had run its course with Adrian at Nebraska, just both in terms of kind of what they were able to do together, and then kind of the wondering, all right, what else is out there? What else could I potentially do in a different situation? And then Nebraska, I think, is in the same deal where I think Frost would have loved to have him back, I'm sure, but at the same time, I think he understands it just hasn't quite gone the way that they both thought it would when they first teamed up 4 years ago. Obviously, we saw all the pressure that he was constantly under this entire season, and that's not really a fun environment for a quarterback to play in. So at this point, I think he gave his 4 years to Nebraska. He set all kinds of records. He got his degree. it makes sense for him to go look elsewhere to see kind of, all right, what else can I do to kind of finish off this chapter of my life.
You know, Nebraska's not going to go ultra heavy with high school for 2022. Will they be able to, with a guy like Mickey Joseph, potentially scour the country? I know they're sending out offers, and they're keeping in contact with some guys, hoping to find the next several Tourés.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key. That's going to determine what this next season looks like in large part. I think it's kind of multifaceted here moving forward with these new staff members. One, can they retain and kind of maximize the talent already on the team, which is something that we just didn't really see the last couple of years. Obviously, Toure came to Nebraska as a finished product. We didn't really see a lot of interior development in terms of consistency from the skill positions outside of some walk-ons in some cases. So you got to find some coaches that can get the most out of a guy like Xavier Betts, that can figure out the running back rotation and establish kind of a clear leader in that backfield. That's got to be one of the keys is, all right, we got to establish a firm hierarchy with our skill positions. We've got to get our talented players on the field and contributing. And then the other is, all right, who can we go out and add that are finished products that will help immediately with in the mold of a Samori Toure? Because you look at Nebraska's history with transfers during Frost's first 4 years here, and it's not super great. The only all-conference caliber player during that stretch was Connor Kolb, and he's a guy that got benched this year and had one of the worst field goal rates, conversion rates in the country. And that's your biggest hit just in terms of all-conference honors. Toure was a very good player. He's definitely a hit, but still wasn't an All-Big Ten player considering the talent at that position in this league. So they're going to have to go out and really do their due diligence, find – they're not going to be able to get the biggest name transfers out there most likely. So they're going to have to really figure out, all right, who's a really good fit for what we want to do, who is a quality player that is looking for this opportunity that can really help us out, that we are able to establish a connection with and convince that Lincoln is a good next step for them. So we'll see. That's kind of the situation that Frost has put himself in with putting all his eggs into the transfer basket, considering how much they have struggled to recruit out of the high school ranks.
Jacob, quickly before we get to basketball, we've seen some talent in this wide receiver room, but we also know that Mickey Joseph, he's going to have a great pitch to a lot of incoming wide receivers, being the coach of Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Do you think they need to go to the portal to replace Toure, or can he be replaced from within this wide receivers room?
Unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that. That's probably job number one for Mickey Joseph, is identifying and evaluating the talent already in his room and determining, all right, what do we need to make next season successful? I think Xavier Betts has the tools to fill in and be that kind of, not necessarily the same player, but in terms of making a big plays and racking up the yardage. I think he can be that guy. I don't know if will be ready to be that guy next season. So that's what they're going to have to determine. Can you just hope that Betts can kind of step into that role next season as your big play threat while Omar Manning kind of takes the next step as kind of the intermediate guy, and then you kind of figure out the rest of the rotation? I think they're looking for transfer wide receivers right now. I think they're going to try hard to land a difference maker at that position. We'll have to see kind of what the results are, but that is one of the big questions is, all right, they got to evaluate their own roster, the new guys coming in, and determine, okay, who can really help us next year with new eyes kind of in the position evaluating those guys, and where are they simply not talented enough to succeed.
Jacob, what are you anticipating for Hoiberg and company tomorrow? Tip-off 11 against Indiana, a marathon against NC State that Nebraska had their shots. Can they turn it around and be competitive again tomorrow morning?
Yeah, that's going to be really tough just by the nature of the way things set up with the 4 overtimes and what that has meant for the last 2 days, where they took Thursday off entirely, no practice. It was all a recovery day. And today they went through some light stuff. So it's going to be a lot of mental preparation for a talented team with one of the best big men in the country in Trace Jackson Davis, who's averaging 22 a game and shooting 67% from the field. He is dunking everything in sight right now, and he's going to be tough to handle. And they've got some sharpshooters around him, too, that you have to be aware of. You can't necessarily just collapse everybody on the paint and expect to have success that way. So they're going to have to be very smart. They're going to have to be dialed in on their defensive scouting report to be able to both send the help that they need to slow down Jackson Davis while also not leaving their shooters wide open. It's going to be a tough one. We'll see. I think that they're in good spirits. I think they're trying to get the most they can out of that learning experience against NC State, just mentally and emotionally. I think that they've moved forward, and Hoiberg talked about how close they are to 7-1 right now. 2 possessions. Those go differently, and they could be sitting here with the Creighton loss as the only one on their record right now. So that's going to be the key: is can they keep dialing in more and more and not let these lapses happen that really cost them? Transition defense, defensive rebounding, and then shot selection. Those are the 3 big keys right now. And all those kind of showed up in that you could call it a collapse because they were up 14 in that second half. And then bad shots, turnovers, runouts, bad transition defense, second chances. And just like that, the gap was eliminated in like 3 minutes. So this is a really if they're able to really hang in this and give them a really good game, whether they win or take them down to the wire, I think that'll say a lot about this team's resiliency, because you just look at the way that it's set up. It looks a heck of a lot like a scheduled type loss.
It totally does. There was some good and honestly some pleasant surprises for me watching them against NC State, not only going up like they did, but the ball movement. And I know it wasn't a perfect shot selection night, but it wasn't as bad as it's been. So I'll take that and run with it. Jacob, just a quick overview, high school hoops. Who are some of the teams you're watching here for this season?
Yeah, the star players to watch, and I saw one of those last night in Connor Milliken at Platteview, who was one of the most productive players in the state as a sophomore, and it has picked up right where he left off with 33, 11, 4, 4, and 3 last night, by my count, in a win against an Elkhorn North team that's looking to make a leap this year. So Milliken is worth the price of admission by himself. In Class B. In Class A, I think it's going to be some of the same suspects despite losing what they did. I think Millard North, Bellevue West with Jason Green at 26 and 10 last night for Millard North. He's going to step into that starring role now with Hunter Salas and St. Thomas gone. And then we'll see Josiah Doser kind of step in at Bellevue West to run the show. I think he had 22 and 5 last night as well in their season opening win, kind of taking over the reins at the point guard position for Chucky Hepburn, obviously. We also saw some game winners last night, which was pretty cool. Shout out to my guy Carter Templemeyer at Lincoln East with a game winner with 2 seconds left at Elkhorn South. Coached him the last 2 years at OSA, and really good player. And then also Martell Evans for Creighton Prep with a game winner. They forced a turnover out at Grand Island. Took the length of the court and scored at the buzzer to break a tie there. So, yeah, the first night in high school hoops provided quite the excitement, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season for sure.
Jacob, Husker volleyball gets underway a little bit later tonight. You know, what's the ceiling here? Does Nebraska have it in it to get to a Final Four, or is the path too treacherous?
They've got the defensive potential for sure, and the way they've been serving and defending down the stretch of the season, that they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. It's going to come down to what they can do offensively and how much consistency they can get from their pin hitters and the entire operation as well. There's been some shoddy passings and some poor location on sets that have contributed to their low-hitting numbers, but at the end of the day, the pins have to go up and terminate, and that's something that they've struggled to do. Obviously, we've seen some stretches where each of them has looked good. Each of the 5 players that he's rotating now have had their stretches of dominant play, but none of them have been able to sustain it long term. And they've also struggled to get 2, 3, 4 of them going in the same game. So that's going to be the key, is that will determine how far this team goes, is what does the pin hitter position as a group provide? Because defensively, they're going to hang around against anybody they face. They just got to be able to score points on their side as well.
You can find Jacob on Twitter at @JacobPadilla_. Get his podcast on the Hurrdat Family Network, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Jacob, have a great weekend, man. Thanks for jumping on.
Yep, talk to you guys soon.
Hello, listener. This is Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to let you know about a special deal just for listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast. We're offering $10 off the annual subscription price of $29.99. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce: 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com. Just try me. Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out on a Friday. Good stuff from Jacob Padilla. We got kicked off with incredible recruiter and assistant coach, the man who recruited Mickey Joseph to Lincoln, Jack Pierce, with us at 4:06. So that'll be posted. It is on ESPN Lincoln Twitter, on ESPN Lincoln On Demand, ESPNLincoln.com. So Jack is always awesome to chat with, get his take and his projection on Mickey back in Lincoln. And, Jack knows his football. Jack knows what the state of Louisiana has done and can do again, just from a recruiting hub for Nebraska football. You think of Seathan Carter and Stanley Morgan recently. And you can also look at some of the success Nebraska had with some all Big 8 performers back in the day. And Jack told the story about the fence, the barrier that was put into action so Mickey could sign at his high school, but yet Nebraska would not be breaking NCAA rules on site at the high school. You went to Southeast, I went to Southeast, and I kind of liken it to the old Smoker Hill. Remember that?
We didn't have Smokers Hill.
What? What happened to that?
It became Smoker's Corner.
Oh, so like all the hundreds back in the day got moved off of the sidewalk?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, forever everyone would be on the sidewalk because it's public domain.
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, Nebraska, T.O. and Jack were down there when Mickey was signing, beating out Oklahoma for him. And Nebraska was technically not on school property.
Yeah. Well, it was the same at Southeast. The location may have changed in the years since. The years between you and me going to school. It became that corner.
The 2 decades.
It was the corner across the street northwest of the school. Became Smoker's Corner. And it really wasn't Smoker's Corner by the time I came around there. It was Vapor's Corner.
Yeah.
How the times have changed.
What a change. Hey, buddy, got a Camel? No. Do you have a vape pen? Don't vape.
Can you hit my vape?
Don't vape. Your lungs will explode. Moving on. So Nebraska, we'll hear from Cajun Kelly in a minute because he is the biggest fraud loser trying to hype the crowd. Well, let's hear there. We'll get to where Nebraska's at in 2 seconds in the portal and when it comes to scholarship offers. But Brian Kelly last night at a basketball game. I remember when Bo came out and did the magic act at Devaney. There's been 400 coaches here. I remember when Frost came out with Tim Miles at PBA. That's your moment, right? That's your moment to be introduced to the fan base that's not press conference cleaned. You've got the mic. You can fire the crowd up, or you can bomb horribly.
Thank you. Well, this is a great way to get started, and I haven't even won all my games yet. It's a great night to be a Tiger. I'm here with my family, and we are so excited to be in the great state of Louisiana, but more importantly, to be with you great fans and to be part of what is going to be an incredible ride here at Louisiana State University.
Brother, don't fake the twang. Don't fake the twang. Do we have his introductory press conference at Notre Dame?
I have him saying family 2 days ago to his team at Notre Dame.
Okay.
Followed up by him saying family in his basketball game last night.
Let's hear the twang.
The twang first?
Yes.
My family.
Okay.
And now would you like to hear the 2 days ago telling his team at Notre Dame that he was leaving?
The former family.
My family. My family.
But if
that is straight up Boston Kennedy right there.
If you want to go back to back.
My family.
My family.
He's been killed all day on social media for this. Good luck sitting down in Forrest Gump country and hitting home. Other than, hey, dude, I've won ball games. Come to LSU. That's where Coach O was money.
I will say, though, whenever you're around all those people with Southern twang, especially get a drink or two, and sometimes it just starts to come out. You don't even know you're doing it. I mean, my experience is down in Mississippi. This is me talking. This is me talking. This is me talking. This is me after 2 drinks.
Right. You turn into wondering where Jen A is at.
He does sound like Forrest Gump when he says family. Does he not?
Family.
Something. What Jack had a good point about, the hill Kelly's got to climb, but there's a mountain of money behind it. So Nebraska got Mickey Joseph in the fold. That's official today, and they've got a lot of offers to go push when it comes to transfer targets. Double digits this week. Here's some new targets. And Butch Davis's crew is under the spotlight. Butch Davis at Florida International is no more. Butch Davis is recruited well and had good lines of scrimmage wherever he's been. And the fact he was back at Florida International because of his North Carolina sins is what it is. But Butch Davis is not going to recruit slouches. So Nebraska's been there. Let's get you some high school names. Elijah Griffin, Greg Smith, HailVarsity.com. Please follow him at Greg Smith HV on Twitter and HailVarsity.com for the latest on this recruiting whirlwind here for signing day in the 15th. So Elijah Griffin, name to keep on your radar here. Chaminade College Prep in St. Louis. He has got interest in Nebraska, more time to evaluate for Nebraska, but also Kansas and Kentucky are interested. You've got the primary guy in Travis Fisher. Mickey Joseph coming on boards. Doesn't suck. You have Florida International receiver Tyrese Chambers, 6'1", 185. He's a guy that's been at Fort Scott. You had Sean Beckton down seeing him today. Miles Frazier, he's a left tackle, offensive lineman. 6'5", 300 from Jersey. He has 30 offers. Since he's on the free agent market, that's Ole Miss and Iowa State. They saw him. He has 3 years to play ball. And I saw the highlights of this kid, Isaiah Garcia Castanita. He has got a couple of years to play. New Mexico State. He's kind of a nice, thick Shaviska Chenault type body type that has like a sixth gear. I saw on a couple of tunnel screens. Minnesota, Utah, Iowa State after him. Basically, if Coach Campbell and Coach Leipold are offering, go get them. Okay? It's as simple as that. You have Timmy Bleekrode is the kicker from Furman. Nebraska, yes, is in on a kicker. So you got some Florida International kids. You've got some JUCO. You've got some high school. And you've got a whirlwind, which is a good thing for Nebraska to try and kind of beef up going into 2022. They've got good receivers. They've got young receivers. And then they need some of that two-ray magic.
Someone
guy
who's
can come in.
polished.
Yes, guy can come in and play ball. We'll wind down hour one. It's Hail Varsity. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time this hour, Bill Doleman, proud of Fairbury, NBC Sports, coming up in 10 minutes. And then our Michigan insider will check in with Gregg Hensen. He is fresh off of that Snowfest, that snow globe game in Ann Arbor against Ohio State. Does Michigan have enough to whack Iowa, or is it the Hawkeyes that win a Big Ten? Do they get one for the West? Finally. So we'll check in with him. And, you know, it's been a talking point, too, some of the parallels. Can it happen? Can Nebraska, after offensive staff changes and a pay reduction, can they pull a Michigan in 2022? Well, it starts with the right assistants, and Mickey Joseph may be one of those guys that will help flip things for Nebraska. Reminder about financial health. Ferris Financial Group, their goal to educate, coach, and help you work towards investment goals. They specialize in investment strategy and can help with budgeting and planning that retirement when it comes to future plans. And they're there also when it comes to finances for you in times of transition, whether you're starting a new job or going through a job change, and anywhere in between. Give Marcus Schmidt a call today with Ferris Financial Group, 402-525-6824, marcus.schmidt at lpl.com. Can reach him at ferrisfinancialgroup.com. Arrow Brokerage, also incredible when it comes to local real estate service, when it comes to investment. And they are a local team that's so talented when it comes to helping clients in all faculties of real estate. That's buying, selling, staging, investing, and more. And be sure to get in contact with Jenny Limbach, broker with Arrow Brokerage, Arrow Capital, or realtor Marcus Schmidt. Can email brokerage at arrowlincoln.com. The website to visit, arrowlincoln.com/brokerage. Facebook at Arrow LNK, and Instagram at Arrow_LNK. Are we may or may not have Clauseborne. Well, I mean, we're going to do the forecast, but we got to figure out just what happens with his voice, if he's going to hammer enough bourbon between now and 5:40 or not. I'm a little sad he's under the weather. But you swallow that many balloons and try and cross the border, there tends to be some esophageal issues.
Yeah, your body's just not meant to consume that much latex.
Spoken. You're full of it today in a great way, between Vape Corner versus Smokers Hill at Southeast. The technology has changed, and it's all in reference to public domain. Mm-hmm. The sidewalk is for everybody, i.e. to skirt recruiting rules and NCAA regulations. When they signed Mickey Joseph, Nebraska able to stand on a barrier away from school property, school grounds.
Well, now that you mention it, we don't know. Claus, maybe the whole crossing the border story was bogus, and he's just got Vapor's lung going.
Oh, so he's turning into popcorn on each side? Mm-hmm. That still wows me that that's still a thing.
What? The smoker's corn?
Vape.
Oh, it's crazy.
Guys your age?
You gotta, back when I was in high school, it was like, oh, you smoke cigarettes? That's gross. Here, have this vape.
Try this. Kurtzer emails in. He wants you to figure out how Nebraska gets 6 or more wins next year. He wants that exercise in football. We'll see if it happens. Bill Doleman's on the way. Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Thanks for spending time. Great to be with you. Hour 2, Friday. It's Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Gregg Hensen, Michigan insider. Get his take on the Nebraska-Michigan potential parallels with Michigan set to go in Indy against Iowa. Good stuff from Jack Pierce to kick us off in Hour 1 on Mickey Joseph, the Pride of Fairbury. And find him on Twitter at Bill Doleman. Billy D, how's your week? What's up?
Well, how you all doing? I'm doing just fine. Learning how to talk like Brian Kelly, like everybody else is now that he's down south.
That was bad. We had the Cajun Kelly segment just a moment ago, where we played Family in South Bend, how it sounds, and how Family sounds at Pistol Peterita. When there's 17,000 Cajuns staring at you saying, you can do it.
Yeah, one of my favorite memes over the last couple of days is somebody posted that he's going to start sounding like the nipple ring guy with the overalls and the water boy.
That's what I was just trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just surprised he didn't wear a washboard and come out to Buckwheat Zydeco, as fraudulent and as phony as that was.
Well,
that's a bad fit. But anyway.
At least there weren't any banjos.
No, Bill, tell me, if the SEC network swooped in and said, we'll give you $100 million over a 10-year contract, but you have to talk in a Southern accent, you'd do it too, wouldn't you?
Oh, I'd be there before I hung up the phone. Yeah, I'm not afraid to sell myself out. Come on.
Pretty good. Bill, a bit of busy week. Want to start with the Mickey Joseph news. Official today around noon or so, a little beforehand. So there needs to be some consistency with Nebraska's offense. Coach Frost has been able to find some talent, but not necessarily keep talent and find that consistency. While it's not an O-line coach, Mickey's resume and development speak for itself. He's coached a lot of years, man. What do you remember about Mickey? What do you think about the hire? Is this going to be immediate? I don't doubt that Mickey Joseph can coach and make Nebraska better. Can he do it in 2022?
Well, I think Mickey's to be congratulated as a guy who has certainly paid his dues in the coaching ranks. He's coached, I think, every single school, high school and college in the state of Louisiana at this point. Mm-hmm. I think he's missing Louisiana U and Centenary. Maybe is the only colleges he hasn't coached at in the state. But look, he started at Omaha North. Mm-hmm. You know, this is what he wanted to do, so he set out to learn how to do it and went to Wayne State and made his mark, you know, but like I said, at a ton of different schools down south. So I think if anybody's kind of followed that, and I like to follow the coaching carousels and the trails, you know, you see that he has been willing to go where the opportunity is to better himself and better the student athletes around him. You know, Alcorn State and Grambling, prominent HBCU schools, but not a lot of resources. Went to Louisiana Tech, spent a little time at Tulane, and then, you know, kind of got rewarded for all of his efforts by getting the opportunity at LSU, and with that, you know, great team that Ed Orgeron had 2 years ago, and unfortunately part of the fallout this year, although I think he's getting paid. But Mickey's paid his coaching dues, and you have to respect him for that. And hopefully all of that, all those connections and all of that experience, you know, pays off now that he's getting, you know, another great opportunity to be at Nebraska. And he's got a big title. I mean, not just assistant head coach, but associate head coach and passing game coordinator. And, you know, Nebraska will certainly utilize, you know, all of the connections that he has made in the coaching profession. And I think not only should people, you know, like us, respect the job that he has done, but I think other coaches, especially down south in the fertile recruiting grounds, will look at Mickey and can relate to him, and also respect that he has done it by going every step of the way and working toward the positions that he's gotten. And when you have the respect of those coaches and the relationships built, that's where the recruiting really starts to pay off. So you might start seeing an influx of, great talent, which Nebraska's had over the years out of Louisiana and in the South, and not just Mickey from Marrero, but Leroy Etienne and Reggie Cooper and Neil Smith, Cedric Collins all came out of the Louisiana era. So, Nebraska's got a chance to tap into that pipeline again.
Influx of talent, and then Stanley Morgan, Ethan Carter, recent Louisianans, Kyron, of course, also. So, and Bo hit Louisiana quite a bit as well. So Nebraska's not unfamiliar down there. You factor in the Southern talent you can kind of go tap back into, Bill, but also talent in the room when you look at a Betts and a Manning and some of the wideouts that have been freshmen or redshirt freshmen. I mean, Mickey's had dudes go to the league, but they weren't household guys. I mean, some of them were 3, 4, 5 stars, but some of them weren't. I mean, he's done as good a job at developing that talent as just finding it.
I was kind of thinking about this. It's not as though you're coming to Nebraska of yesterday, which, don't get me wrong, I thoroughly respect those guys who played receiver at Nebraska and, created an efficient, maybe not spectacular passing game, but an efficient passing game. He's not going to be working with, Reggie Ball and Brendan Holbein and guys like that. The great Aaron Davis. He will have some receivers that are big, fast, and maybe more in line with what he's coached at LSU than the kind of receivers he was throwing to when he was at Nebraska. So, that certainly helps. And let me go back, something else kind of struck me as I was having a brilliant thought just a moment ago. I would bet that performance by Brian Kelly at the Maravich Center could do more harm than good with those. I'm serious. With those Louisiana high school coaches and Southern coaches who get this guy to come in, and he's been panned greatly over the last 12 hours for that performance. That you're going to come in and you're going to start talking like them to endear yourself to them. They're going to smell a fraud. It's like going into Texas high schools and not being able to relate. And I think Brian Kelly probably, tried to put a step forward and took 2 or 3 steps back, because people are going to be like, who's this guy? He truly is not one of us, because, people look at this, a Massachusetts guy who's been in Michigan and Cincinnati and Notre Dame, and now you're going to come down here and think that you're just going to come in and get the best players. This guy, Mickey Joseph, busted his ass to get to the position that he is, and he's one of us, and we respect him, and we're more in line to have a conversation with him right now than we are with you. And we don't even know who else are you going to bring in that's going to be, a fraud. I think it's significant.
I mean, Kelly's Boston Kennedy is what he is. It's what he sounds like. It's all right. It's all right, but don't pretend you can flip a switch, and you're right on with the fraud part. Let's switch gears and talk about Adrian Martinez off to the portal. This is all I'm going to say. And a divorce needed to happen. Nebraska needs to have a quarterback room without Adrian, see what they can do. Adrian needs to go play for a team that can keep him alive. That said, everybody under the sun, teammates, administrators, ADs, put out, "You're a warrior. God bless. Thank you." I have not seen a statement at all from the head coach, Scott Frost. Am I wrong to think maybe the exit interview got a little tense?
Well, let's put it this way. Scott's busy. He ought to be pretty busy right now. And Scott has, I think, I would not be reading between the lines. Maybe there are lines to be read between. But look, there's a lot going on with that Nebraska football program right now. Scott has talked at length over the last 4+ years about Adrian Martinez. I don't recall that you have a lot of statements about players who put their names in the transfer portal. Is it because this is such a unique relationship that maybe you would expect one? I don't know. I'm not going to read into it. Adrian is walking into a situation you may or may not have followed this in the last 2 hours or whatever it is, 4 hours. Kansas State fired its offensive coordinator, who was one of, is it Chris Kleeman, their head coach?
Yes.
His boyhood best friend has been with him every step of the way in his coaching career, apparently, and gave him his walking papers this morning. So he's leaving Nebraska with uncertainty at the offensive coordinator position to go to Kansas State, where there is now, after Adrian, I guess, signed his papers. I don't know how it works, but there's no offensive coordinator at Kansas State. So, again, I go back to Scott's kind of busy right now because in addition to now Kansas State looking for an OC, Colorado's looking for an OC. Not that anybody out here in Colorado even knows that, but they're looking for an offensive coordinator. Auburn is looking for an offensive coordinator. Indiana, Minnesota. In addition to all of the other coaching positions that are still open, Oklahoma's going to be looking for one. Virginia's now going to be looking for one. Florida. And who knows what's going on with Manny Diaz, Miami, and Oregon. I mean, there are a lot of assistant coaches that are on the edge of their seats wondering, am I still going to have a job? Where can I go? And some of them might have their pick. They're just waiting for Oklahoma to call. Or Clemson, who knows? The Virginia thing caught everybody by surprise. How attractive are some of these jobs? I maintain I don't think Miami can be as nearly attractive for Mario Cristobal and whatever staff he'd bring down compared to what they can do at Miami, where people actually still go to games as opposed to Miami. I thought Manny Diaz was going to excite people. But anyway, there are a lot of jobs and assistant coaching jobs that are open right now. And I think, Scott's got that on his plate.
I think Klein's going to get the nod, the former K-State quarterback. I think he'll get bumped to the OC, and I think he's probably already been working on Adrian to be a little bit closer to his girlfriend down there.
Well, but keep this in mind, too, with Adrian Martinez. He has played with, I think, virtually every injury outside of the last reported hip pointer, I think, was in 1989. Remember, players used to get hip pointers all the time. Adrian has had every possible injury there is. The shoulder surgery, as I believe I read it, 4 to 6 months of recovery time. So he's going to miss spring ball in all likelihood at Kansas State, and then you're going to go into the fall. How healthy are you? What kind of hits can you take? What's he going to have around him? I think, look, anytime you transfer, there's a lot of questions, but there are going to be a lot of questions for Adrian next year, and I think everybody in Nebraska wishes him well. I think, he certainly took some shots from the vocal, 2%. But I think for the most part, people really appreciate the way he conducted himself, represented himself in the university. His family certainly was welcome at Nebraska. I think, despite its tumult, it was a good relationship for Nebraska with Adrian Martinez. And now you move on. And hopefully Nebraska has loyalty to Logan Smothers and Heinrich Harburg and whoever else is in the program. And I know they've got an eye on the transfer portal. But you'd hope that there's some loyalty to who you brought in and to make sure that you develop them right and give them the first opportunity before you really start bringing somebody in and promising jobs.
Bill, what do you think? From what you saw in the Iowa game, is Logan Smothers ready to take the reins of this offense, or do you think a transfer quarterback would be in the best interest of the offense for next season?
I don't think Tom Brady entered the transfer portal. So, how do you know that what you're going to get in the transfer portal for a year is going to be the guy in that offense? I thought Logan Smothers looked really good, especially running, the option, which everybody should know by now that I love. As a fast kid, took a couple hits, played heady football, had a mistake at the end, whether that was his fault on the pass or not. It happened. But I think what people saw out of him was that he's a gamer. And I hope that he takes a lot of positives out of that Iowa game, because I certainly did watching him play.
Bill, a couple minutes here. Your synopsis on the earthquake that was the coaching carousel this week. I think, as much as I like to watch it, and it's amazing to me how it goes round and round and round every year, this, to me, in terms of college football coaching, is reminiscent of conference realignment in 2010 and 11. Nebraska going to the Big Ten, the A&M to the SEC, all of that kind of stuff. Just the big moves that were made, the big money that just is
polluting, I think, the game. I'm a capitalist, but Jay, some of the amount of money that you're giving out to Brian Kelly, and it's just ridiculous, or how much guys are getting to stay home. And apparently Cristobal's getting a fat contract to sign after the game tonight against Utah. I think it's really polluting the game. But I think with all the moves and, again, the assistant coaching moves that are going to be made in the next couple of weeks, it's a major, major shift. And I'm glad that Nebraska is not in it. You know, whatever you think of bringing Scott back or not, I'm glad he's back. I think the schedule is more user-friendly for next year. But I think Trev made a smart decision to at least look at this landscape and go, there's some seismic shifting going on and a lot of movement. Let's sit this one out. You know, Matt Campbell's name might fade a little bit, and they certainly have a situation at Iowa State with Jamie Pollard now announcing that he has cancer, their athletic director. Matt Campbell might be inclined to be loyal to ISU even more. But I think Nebraska's best to, put the cards on the table, fold, and let's come back if we need to at another time. Hopefully we don't. But this has been as crazy a time as I've seen in college changes, coaching changes, as it was with conference realignment. And probably not done yet, you know.
Bill Doleman.
I wish coaches were more honest. Lincoln Riley saying I didn't talk to him until Saturday night, Sunday morning. That doesn't fly either.
No,
that's as phony as Brian Kelly's accent.
Bill, we'll check in next week, brother. Have a good weekend, and thanks for jumping on.
All right, go Big Red, and hopefully the Huskers do well against Indiana, not that the NC State game is over.
Pardon the interruption, but I'd like to save you some money. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor of Hail Varsity, and I wanted to offer listeners of this podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time to check in with our Michigan insider, and man, he's smiling. That snow was melting off of him in Ann Arbor last weekend. Gregg Hensen with us. Greg, it is so good to talk with you again. Last time was before Nebraska-Michigan. We've fast-forwarded the championship weekend. Man, you still got to be smiling. You're a proud Michigan guy. And you got together with all your friends and family, and you saw one white whale of a game. Did you make it down to the field, or did you just watch from afar against Ohio State?
I just sent my 18-year-old down, and he did the Russians by proxy for me. And he really wanted to go down, so I said, go ahead. And so he went down and enjoyed that. But I'll tell you, man, it was cold, and it was rainy, and it was snowy, and it didn't matter. It was just a really great atmosphere for college football, which Nebraska has, too. It's just been a while since they've been able to do what Michigan did. It's been a while for Michigan, too. But, you know, I got to be honest with you. When I saw how it turned out after what happened with Harbaugh in the offseason, where he took less money to stay, he turned over his coaching staff, it really – I'm hoping it bodes the same for Nebraska, because – I know a lot of people are frustrated with Frost, but, man, you guys have lost like 80 games by 6 points total. I feel like every time you guys lose, it's a mistake, and it's close, I feel like. Don't you, or are you just not down?
No, you're right on it, and that's the maddening part, where stop making mistakes, right? And a lot of them are the same mistakes. It's special teams. It's attention to detail. And Greg, you know, you're so close on the scoreboard that you hit reset and go back to start on the Monopoly board, or do you kind of hang on and stay where you're at on the game board and hopefully roll that winner and make your way around, right? And
I think you got to. I think they did the smart thing. I really do.
Well, it's in hindsight, so 2020 right now. Imagine trying to go get who you want and not settle with the coaching carousel as crazy as it's been since last Monday. I mean, think about being in that line to try and get someone that's better and can get you to the next level when all these blue bloods that are currently winning are in line to get their next coach.
And that's why I think Nebraska did the right thing. That's why I think Michigan did the right thing. Unless you want to play that game every year, you better find someone who has some type of an attachment to your university. Frost does. Harbaugh does. And I think that's the way you got to go about it. Otherwise, every other year, Notre Dame and Oklahoma are no longer destination jobs. I don't know what world we're living in, but you better have some other type of attachment than money. And to see Harbaugh donate all his bonus money to the staff members that took pay cuts during COVID tells you he's not, for lack of a better term, he's not a money grubber. Mm-hmm. He's not a whore. He's not going to run off to the next job, and neither is Scott Frost. So if I'm Nebraska, I'm pulling for a Harbaugh-type turnaround next year out there just because he'll be there. You can count on Frost to be there if they can win.
Gregg Hensen's with us, Michigan insider, Hail Varsity Radio, the Hawkeyes and the Wolverines in Indy. So Harbaugh changed his assistants. He's had good assistants there. He's found the right assistants. And you also have some guys that were ballyhooed that have really delivered as they've continued to develop. And there's been a lot of turnover on his staffs. But what is it about this staff that when he put it together after his restructuring, were you confident that it could be kind of a breakthrough year with his changes?
No. Because they were brought – here's the thing. They were brought in – and Harbaugh's had good staffs, and a lot of them have left for better jobs. I mean, he's had to fire a couple guys, but he's also had guys go on like Jed Fish to be head coaches elsewhere, and Tyrone Wheatley got his own program. But I think I think the jury's still out on this staff as a whole because they still have to close in recruiting, and that's why they were brought in. These guys were supposed to be excellent recruiters, and so far, and I'm saying they could close strong, they're just okay. Now, I understand it's the first year of them recruiting, and next year will probably tell the story more, but, as far as the X's and O's, I think it brought a different energy was the upside. You got Mike Hart, who I think is probably the heir apparent if all goes well, down the road to be the next head coach at Michigan. You got Ronald Bellamy, who was a Michigan player, who was a successful high school coach, and you got Clinkscale, who's a great recruiter and who's taken big time players out of the city of Detroit. These guys have to not only be good coaches, which I think they've done a nice job of, but they've got to be great recruiters because that's why they were brought in to bring energy to the recruiting game. And right now they're sitting at 16th, so. You got to see some better recruiting, and it may not pay dividends till next year. But I don't compare last year to this year because last year was COVID. Mm-hmm. So the improvement by some of the players could have just been a year older. The cornerbacks like Gray and Turner, those guys have really stepped up into their own.
Greg, aside from Ohio State, it's really felt like teams can only find 1 year of success in the Big Ten. At least that's how it's felt for about the past 5 years. When you look at Minnesota, they popped for 1 year and then they kind of regressed back to the mean. Indiana, they popped for a year and regressed back to the mean. And the jury's still out on Michigan and Michigan State this season. But do you think that's the new normal in the Big Ten is you work your way up for 1 good year, 1 year of competing for maybe a college football playoff spot and then regress back to an average 9-3, 8-4 type football season? Is that what we can expect in the Big Ten moving forward?
Well, I definitely still think Ohio State is the class of the Big Ten still until proven otherwise. But I do think it's going to be top-end talent for Michigan and Penn State. I just don't know that Penn State's going to ever be able to win big with Franklin as their head coach. But I think this was a bit of a breakthrough for Michigan, and I do think they kind of have a blueprint now to beat Ohio State on a more regular basis. I never really – There's ultimately only going to be 3 or 4 Big Ten teams. The ones in the West obviously aren't an issue because they're a different division. So it's still going to be Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State in the East. And I do think something has changed for Michigan because I think Harbaugh is a coach on the same level as Ryan Day, and he just finally proved it. So, I mean, he is the only coach in the Big Ten who's beaten Ryan Day, which is a shocking fact, but it's true.
What's your feel with Michigan State? Is this Mel's going to at worst be 7-5, so let's lock that up in East Lansing, or could he keep this momentum going? Could it be a situation where you're going to have both teams in Michigan year in, year out, 10-2?
I'm not really thinking Michigan State can keep it up because their recruiting does lag. I don't expect him to be able to hit the transfer portal the way he did this year with a couple of guys. I think, you got a guy who's, 2 games over 500 at Michigan State, and he's getting $9.5 million. I'm not sold on that yet. I think they were beaten by Michigan, and Michigan blew it. And I don't expect it to be something that's going to be sustainable in East Lansing. I'm shocked, frankly, that he did not leave because it's going to be so hard for him to compete recruiting-wise. You can see he's not doing a great job recruiting as it is. So the jury's still very much out on Mel Tucker.
The Michigan blueprint, do you anticipate more heavy tight end formations, ground and pound, play action, get somebody that's – and I think McNamara really against Nebraska kind of came into his own. He made some big throws, gained confidence from that win in Lincoln. And he, I know there was the fumble against Sparty, but overall, I thought Harbaugh finally has his guy he can ride with that's younger, and you can really see him blossom as young as he is. But just from a plan standpoint, I mean, this has got to be the offense Jim wants and feels good with, and then they were so good defensively, and I was too chicken last week to call the Michigan. I had the Michigan outright win, and then I dialed it back to the cover. All right, last minute.
I talked him out of it.
You did. I got the craziest look from Elijah. He's like, dude, we need the drug test you already. And,
well, it's funny. As I was walking in, Schmitty, I said to my kid, he's 18, I said, man, today feels a lot like 97. And there's a lot of parallels. Mm-hmm. The last time they lost a captain in the first week, they won the national title. The weather was the same. The defensive, having dominant defensive ends and a defensive line that plays that way was the same. Having a game manager as a quarterback is the same. I mean, there were a lot of parallels for me walking into that game. And I thought they had a shot. I really did. And I'm like you, though. I wussed out. I wouldn't open my mouth and say it, but I kind of felt like that. I only said it to my kid. But I did have a really good feeling going in. And after they scored, after they got picked off, I thought, well, this is going to tell the story because it had the momentum, could have gone up 2 touchdowns and blew it. But Aiden Hutchinson and Ojabo weren't having it. And the bottom line is this is a different team. They're tough. They're more focused. And I think that's kind of where the rubber hit the road for Michigan. But, yeah, the blueprint is, and I don't know why Harbaugh went away with it, because in his first year he won 10 games grounded and pounded. Yeah. Why not just get better at it?
Oh, I know. And it seemed like you had quarterback merry-go-round. You had all these 4- and 5-star dudes come in at quarterback, and then they all transfer out. But, no, I like McNamara, and I like your 1-2 punch at running back. And then your defense has been incredible. They've been game wreckers all year. So let's fast forward to Indy. We started the season in Indy at Big Ten Media Days on the 50. Now you get to be back there. Do you like the matchup against Iowa? Does Iowa somehow hang around? The line's 11. How you feeling for Saturday night?
You never feel good when you're playing Iowa. I'm not sure if you feel that way too. Because I was going to hang around
recently.
For turnover. Have you guys handled them recently or no?
They've lost 7 in a row and blew a 15-point lead to that offense last Friday.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Well, my thought is don't let Iowa hang around because they will try to. They'll be opportunistic. Problem Iowa's going to have is they run the ball well. That's all they do well on offense. And Michigan is a good run-stuffing team. And Michigan can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They're a pretty balanced attack. I don't know how Iowa scores enough points to win, to be honest with you. But I'm a big fan of Iowa's. I always am. And I know their history for pulling upsets against Michigan. So that should be something that's in the back of everybody's mind. But I still don't think there's going to be enough there to beat Michigan in the end. And if Michigan lost, it would be a very Michigan way to blow it, wouldn't it?
That would be the downer that you guys don't need. I want to see you against Georgia in the college football playoff, just from the sheer matchup standpoint. Gregg Hensen, Michigan Insider, with us. Greg, enjoy your football weekend, man. It was great to get caught up.
All right, you too, man. Take care, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Like what you hear, high-quality radio and podcast is part of what we do at Hail Varsity. Hey, it's Chris Schmidt with Hail Varsity Radio, and I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we produce, 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all the premium content we produce at HailVarsity.com. Just go to HailVarsity.com/subscribe and enter in the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's HailVarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Good to talk some Michigan, Iowa. Get some perspective on kind of a revamp for Nebraska in 2022, how it worked for Harbaugh in 2021. Jack Pierce kicked us off in hour one. He recruited Mickey Joseph, some insight on what Mickey can bring to the Big Red. Bill Doleman with us, Jacob Padilla. It is that time. We love doing this throughout the football season and beyond. He's imaginary. He wears red, and it started, 10 years ago, 10 years plus, when we started doing Clauseborne's holiday wish list. It's turned and morphed into the Friday forecast. We continue on. We say hi to Clauseborne, who's been playing hurt all week. Claus, you doing better? You feeling a little bit, more yourself opposed to being under the weather? Thanks for joining us.
Well, I feel pretty good right now. As you said, I have been under the weather this past week. In fact, it got so bad at one point, I revisited history a little bit, promised one of my elves that in 7 years, if I wasn't any better, he could have my job without Bill Burns' permission. So if that's any indication of how bad it went, that's what my week was.
One of my elves? That is nice. It's pretty good. Let's get into the forecast on Hail Varsity Radio. Maybe. So, we are off to the Pac-12 title game in Vegas. That'll be interesting. Mario's won, even if he loses tonight, because Uncle Phil said, here's a blank check, don't go to Miami. Line's 3 now. It went up a half a point. Utah was favored by 3.5 2 weeks ago and drilled Oregon. Tough to beat a team twice. I don't like Oregon's quarterback play, and I like Utah's toughness and defense. I think Utah gets him again. Not a blowout, neutral field, but give me Utah win over Oregon, and they'll do it by a touchdown, 28-21. That's where I'm at. Elijah.
Yeah, Oregon, it really felt like had one of their worst performances of the season against Utah. I don't think that happens again. And as you said, it's tough to beat a team twice. This Oregon team has quality. And I'm with you, though, that their downfall is quarterback play. But I think they do enough, especially defensively tonight, to get the win. And I say Oregon gets an outright win over Utah tonight, 30-27.
So you think they win outright? All right. 31-point win just back on the 20th of November. Claus, what happens here, Oregon or Utah?
Well, it's kind of funny because after all of these years of really sustained success for Oregon, whenever I think of Oregon, I still really don't think football power. I mostly think about dying of dysentery along the trail. But I have to say, they have been there before, and I don't see Utah as quite having that experience. And I think Oregon's going to be ready. I think it's going to be tight. I think they'll win it late, but Oregon wins 24 and Utah 21.
Good pick.
All right, let's move on to the Big 12 title game, the Dr. Pepper Championship. Line is moved up a half a point, and that is Oklahoma State -6. Baylor held to 14 points by that Oklahoma State defense the first time. 24-14 win by the Cowboys. They're coming off Bedlam. where the second half was kind of touch and go for both teams. It got so bad that Lincoln went to USC. I think Oklahoma State here gets it done again. I think they get the season sweep and a little bit more offense against a good Baylor defense. 27-21. I know that's a cop-out, but I think this thing's more likely to be a push. And I think that's where they head. But I think Oklahoma State keeps their BCS, their playoff, their Final Four hopes alive. I think it's a push, but I think Oklahoma State wins outright.
Yeah, and I'm with you on this one. I think Oklahoma State knows they need a good performance day to have their hopes of college football playoff to still be there for them for the taking after this game. So I think Oklahoma State comes out and plays well. Danny said yesterday on the show he's thinking under. I'm thinking over, as I have Oklahoma State winning 27-20 over, but Oklahoma State covers.
All right. What do we have, Claus, here? The orange and black or the Sikkim Baylor Bears?
Well, as you boys know, it's been quite a crazy coaching carousel this offseason, and one name I heard brought up a lot, but apparently it's not moving, is Dave Aranda of Baylor. And he said maybe that Baylor was the perfect fit for him, his quirky leadership style. And that makes sense because usually someone with an odd leadership style named David doesn't come out of Waco. So I believe that Oklahoma State will win this game, despite Dave Aranda sticking around, 31-27.
I just got the joke.
Right, Branch Davidian joke. Clauseborne off the top rope. Well, let's head to the SEC Championship game. Georgia, Bama, Saban's never dogged. They are this weekend down at the Mercedes-Benz Dome. 6.5. UGA is favored. Elijah, what do you think?
I think Georgia hasn't faced a real big test since early in the season. I look back to that Arkansas game, and they showed up well, but they never had to play Alabama, and especially an Alabama team that knows they need a win to keep their playoff hopes alive. So I think Alabama comes out with their hair on fire. I don't think they win. I think Georgia's defense is just a little bit too good, but I think Bama does cover the 6.5. Give me Georgia winning this one at 24-21, a close win for Georgia.
Georgia's been a bit of an afterthought offensively. They've just kind of hummed along. It's all good. Bennett's been very steady, but not even 2,000 yards passing. White, their eye back, under 700 yards. Bowers, he doesn't even have Georgia doesn't have a 1,000-yard rusher or receiver. It's been all about that defensive line. I think Bryce Young does enough. Saban's been underdogged the last five times he's been underdogged. He's won outright. Give me Bama. Outright, low scoring, 24-21. The Tide get back into the playoffs. Claus, what do you say?
Well, I'm really conflicted because I think Georgia is probably the most underachieving team outside of Austin in all of college football. But on the other hand, Alabama has sort of become the Ennis Del Mar to ESPN and the CFP's Jack Twist. I really wish they knew how to quit him as well. So I hope Georgia wins big. I'm picking them 31 and Alabama 17.
2-touchdown win, says Claus. We will get to the Big Ten title game here at the other side. Quickly, though, the AAC title game 4 years ago, it was the moment for Frost. Now it's Fickle and Cincy, minus 10.5 over Dana, his Skullet. Cincy pounded Houston the first time. I think they do it again. 35-10, the win outright for Cincy. Elijah.
Yeah, Houston's got a good offense, though. It comes down to what Cincinnati's defense can do. I think we have a slim cover for Houston here. Their offense is good enough to put up 24 points, so I think Cincinnati puts up 34. It's a 34-24 win for the Bearcats, but a cover barely for Houston.
Claus, what do you like here? Houston and Holgerson, or do you like Cincy, the hammer job, and cover?
Well, I'm much like you, Christopher. I'm a proud card-carrying member of the Beehive, and Beyonce is from Houston. So I'll take the Cougars in an upset, 28, and Cincinnati 24.
There we have it. First time they'll meet all year. I misspoke about the rematch, but I like what Fickle can do for you. Timeout, and then we'll wrap up Michigan, Iowa, the Big Ten title game prediction with the forecast. Clauseborne returns. We wind down a Friday with Hail Varsity, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Like what you hear? High-quality radio and podcasts are just part of what we do at Hail Varsity. I'm Brandon Vogel, managing editor. I wanted to offer listeners of the Hail Varsity Radio Show podcast $10 off the price of an annual subscription. That means that you, for less than $20, can get everything we do. 10 issues of our monthly magazine, our annual football yearbook, and all of the premium content we produce at hailvarsity.com. Just go to hailvarsity.com/subscribe and enter the promo code GBR for $10 off a full year of Hail Varsity. That's hailvarsity.com/subscribe, promo code GBR.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at hailvarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, don't forget the weekend edition back tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Mark Cranack, myself. Connor Clark going to be in. Tomorrow morning, Elijah Herbel this afternoon as we welcome Clauseborne back in. And 7 o'clock kick in Indy. It was awesome to start off the Big Ten season for Media Days on that field. It started there. It'll end there. Iowa and Michigan minus 11. It would be very Michigan, as our Wolverine insiders said, for Michigan not being able to handle success post-Ohio State. I get an eerie feeling about this with the turnovers. And Michigan's taking care of the ball. It's a dome. I get it. But momentum's a crazy thing. I think Michigan wins. I think Iowa makes it real tough. And give me Michigan 27. And somehow Iowa will dirty 21. Give me Michigan the win, but the Iowa cover tomorrow in Indy. Elijah, you're shaking your head at me.
Hell no. I was not going to be able to generate that much offense. Michigan's run defense is stout. They don't know what they're going to do at quarterback between Padilla and Spencer Petras. So I don't see Iowa scoring that many points. I see this pretty one-sided. Michigan wins 31-10.
One more time?
Michigan wins 31-10.
All right.
Winning
savage beating.
Yes.
Claus, where you going here? Michigan and khakis, Iowa and Iowa.
Well, I was pretty impressed with the way Michigan played last Saturday. I kind of thought to myself at one point that maybe 9 months from now we might see a boom of babies named after Mr. Haskins. But I looked at his first names and then looked at Michigan demographics, and not to get political or anything, but I don't think that's probably going to happen. And again, that would never happen for Iowa, considering that a man in a Powerhawk T-shirt is its own natural form of birth control. So I suppose in this one, I like the way Michigan runs the ball. They got a couple good players in addition to Haskins, so I think Iowa probably makes it tough. I agree with Christopher, but I don't think it's quite. I'm somewhere in the middle. We'll put it that way. Michigan 24 and Iowa 17.
Okay. Touchdown win for the Wolverines and a playoff reservation. Claus, behave yourself. Keep hammering the halls and get to feeling better, all right?
Okay.
There he goes. Clauseborne off. We'll have to figure out, and we'll have our bowl pick'ems coming up with Claus in the Friday forecast. What's on the agenda tonight?
I will be watching the Pac-12 title game.
Same.
That's all about it.
Are we airing it, or do we have basketball tonight?
I believe we're airing it here.
Oh, good.
But all I know is that I will be walking through the leaves in my yard on my way back through my front door and avoiding that. And I'll wake up in the morning and avoid raking the leaves some more while I watch Husker basketball.
Yep,
and
it's an 11 o'clocker.
We'll hopefully avoid it all weekend until the Broncos play the Chiefs on Sunday night.
How you feeling about your dogs?
Oh, not good at all. Not good at all.
Check the podcast out. Good stuff from Jack Pierce on Mickey Joseph, Bill Doleman, Jacob Padilla, Gregg Hensen, and Clauseborne. Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. Give us a rating. Subscribe. Good, bad, or ugly. We love your feedback. Talk to you tomorrow at 7 with Hail Varsity Weekend.
A Hurrdat Media Production.